Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some of the stocks on the move today. I'm Paul Sweeney alongside Alexander Semenova, and we're joined by Bloomberg's Tatiana Darrier. Tatiana, what are you looking at today? Lots to choose from.
Yeah, looking at a combination of consumer and tech stocks. Obviously, we'll start with Amazon, the big mover to the downside, down 6% right now after weaker than expected operating income and trailing growth in its cloud division. Of course, after such strong results from Google and Microsoft, those results aren't digested very well by investors. And even though the CEO said we're in the very early days of AI, investors just not really convinced that all that spending is paying off for Amazon after what we've seen in the results here.
And Tatiana, it's been pretty incredible to see what a mixed bag the tech results have been. Obviously, on the flip side, you have Apple that was doing much better yesterday than Amazon.
Yeah, Apple here was up, now has kind of lost that move, is slightly down, we'll just call it flat on the session here. After seeing its fastest quarterly revenue growth in more than 3 years, a really solid quarter for Apple. Tim Cook saying that the company saw an acceleration of growth around the world, in China particularly, and in other EM markets. Services was really good for them, a record quarter, and then their revenue growth forecast was also better than analysts expected. I also looked for the impact for tariffs, because remember, that was the big worry for them, and they did incur an $800 million hit. They said they're going to incur another $1 billion in the coming quarter, but so far they still managed to pull gross margins at the high end of their guidance despite all this tariff impact. So all these big companies are finding ways to offset the tariff impact.
Yeah, you wonder how long they can take it in the margin before passing along to consumers. How about Kimberly Clark? That's one that obviously a lot of consumer products side of the business, you think you might see inflation.
Exactly. You would think that, but no. Kimberly Clark here leading gains in the S&P 500, part of the very few stocks that are rising right now. Up 7%, your ticker is KMB. After reporting the strongest volume growth in 5 years, organic sales jumped after consumers retreated in the first quarter amid tariff concerns where they're coming back. And Kimberly Clark also saying that tariffs or the impact will be less than they thought originally. And analysts asking how were you able to offset some of that impact? They pointed to favorable effects with the weaker dollar and some other actions like depreciation and amortization. So far it looks like these big companies do have a lot of levers to pull to offset the tariff impact.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.